Hi everyone, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Mike. We're on our yacht Zen again in Gosport Marina in the UK.
In this video we describe our cruise from Batemans Bay on the east coast of Australia to Langkawi in Malaysia.
Along the way we spent a cyclone season in Darwin before cruising East Timor, Indonesia and the Malay Peninsula.
We hope you like the video.
Here is a track of the first part of our trip from Batemans Bay to Darwin in the north of Australia. We found Zen again in Brisbane, and a month or two after purchasing her we went back to Brisbane and sailed her south to a new home in Batemans Bay. What you're seeing here is a brief walk around in Runaway Bay near the Gold Coast. We also stopped in Sydney and in Jervis Bay and a number of other ports. Her layout down below is very conventional for a 1980s cruiser racer. You can see the cabin there, the galley and the nav station. Here we are sailing out of the Gold Coast, heading down the Queensland coast towards New South Wales. We had a great sail. And here is Zen again on her mooring in the mouth of the Clyde River in Batemans Bay. You can see the town of Batemans Bay as we zoom out, and you can see the lifting bridge that allows you to go up the river. During our year in Batemans Bay we did quite a bit of work preparing for cruising, including refurbishing the instrument panel, fitting a cockpit table, a new galley stove with 3 burners, a grill and oven, replacing the cabin table. We found the boat's original Aries wind vane and refurbished it. We fitted a SSB radio and a Pactor modem for email. We fitted a new autopilot, and we created and fitted a new tiller. We took the boat to Sydney and had some osmosis treated and copper coat anti-foul applied, and then we started preparing for the off. The new pedestal or cabin table had a lot of storage for food and also for drink and for our pilot guides and so forth. Zen again was ready to go cruising. Here we are sailing north along the New South Wales coast. We sailed direct from Batemans Bay to Broken Bay and from there north. Most of the weather was very nice, and as you can see from the sail numbers, we were sailing as members of the Canberra Yacht Club. On our way up the New South Wales coast we spent a few days in Coffs Harbour after going in there into a 30 knot westerly. This is a quick circuit of the boat in Bums Bay, an anchorage near the Gold Coast. We were there for several days too. And now we're sailing up the Queensland coast, now getting into the trade winds area, and it was great sailing in increasingly warm weather, more the sort of sailing that we were hoping for. Here we're in Lizard Island in northern Queensland, from where we proceeded around Cape York across the Gulf of Carpentaria to Darwin. And here we are entering the lock at Tipperary Waters Marina. We were in Darwin for nearly a year, including of course a full cyclone season, which was very hot. While we were there we investigated a leak that we'd discovered while coming up the east coast. That was something that was going to radically change our plans. We installed a air conditioner, which was marvellous. We fitted new headlining. We replaced our batteries with a set of Lifeline batteries at the bottom of the pedestal. We fitted a battery charger to the pedestal. We did various work on the instrument panel and fitted a antenna switch panel. We had a fair bit of work done on the engine. At the end of the cyclone season, we escaped the marina out into Fanny Bay. We refurbished the quarter berth, fitted a smart charger and a high output alternator, a new outboard motor for the dinghy, and mounted the stern anchor. Before leaving Darwin, we did several shakedown cruises, one to Port Essington.
We spent nearly 12 months living and working in Darwin. During this time, we took the opportunity to explore more of the Northern Territory, as it's incredible country. We're touring Kakadu National Park here, and it's just at the end of the cyclone season. Everywhere is intensely green and the waterfalls are full, perfect for cooling off in the hot and humid conditions. This is our overall track from when we left Darwin, sailing to East Timor, Indonesia and Malaysia, ending up in Langkawi in time for Christmas. We're leaving Darwin for Dili as part of the Sail East Timor rally. As you can see, Mike's very excited to be escaping life at anchor and heading for the open ocean. The doll was made by local women in Atauro Island in East Timor, and we named her Anim, which means in the local language Tedum, wind. We're well into the Timor Sea here, and Arnhem is holding up very well, as we are. Overall, the conditions were quite variable, and the wind dropped out a few times before we reached Dili 4 days later. Following the parties and presentations from the rally, we spent some extra time in East Timor whilst waiting for some engine parts to arrive. We explored more of the island, including Marbisi in the hills, and we visited the World War II Memorial at Dare. We had a great time relaxing in Dili too. We're on our way to Kupang now, the first stop in the Sail Indonesia rally. After clearing in, we visited the night market in Kupang and toured around West Timor. We noticed that much of the architecture reflects Indonesia's colonial Dutch heritage. After Kupang, our next destination was the island of Alor. The islands were very steep too and fjord-like, and we had to keep a sharp lookout for fishing platforms like these. We arrived quite early in the morning and were treated to a formidable welcoming party. The festivities took place over many days, and the locals are justifiably proud of their culture. This included headhunting, but fortunately this is no longer practiced. We spent some lovely days exploring this part of Indonesia, with its pristine beaches and warm waters, perfect for snorkeling. We're now heading for the island of Flores, still in the eastern part of Indonesia. This country is quite agricultural, and this is a pretty typical island scene that you see about the place. We spent a lot of time exploring this part of Flores, and as part of our travels we visited the coloured volcanic lakes at Kelimutu. If you look closely, you may be able to see the yellow sulphur deposits on the sides of the craters. We're heading further west along Flores, staying at the place called Riong, which is an absolutely gorgeous scenic place, which was very popular with many of the cruisers. Again, very pristine, very pleasant. So we're now heading towards Labuan Bajo and Komodo on the western end of Flores. Very well known for its pink beaches and very colourful coral. Unfortunately doesn't do it much justice here, but hopefully this will give you some idea of what it was like. But very, very pleasant snorkelling conditions. And we're continuing along towards Komodo because, as most of us know, the big attraction of Komodo is visiting those scary, scary dragons.
To fight each other. For example, you can see from here the hand of that stairs, it has broken leg.
And here they are. At the time, we were allowed on the island, but a guide had to take you around, and it was just as well because they knew what they were doing with these animals. You certainly don't want to mess with them. They're pretty dangerous. So we're heading along out of Flores, heading towards Sumbawa, and then on our way to Lombok. And as we head west into Indonesia, quite a distinct change you could see in the people and the culture, the scenery and the language. So this is going up the volcano in Lombok. We had a guide take us, and swelteringly hot, and we're just cooling off in the water here. On the way back we came across a local wedding. These ladies are weaving textiles. They're quite beautiful songkats made out of silk. Absolutely beautiful. So we're in Bali now, and we're on holiday in the Ubud area, which is very well known for its culture, and I'm having a bit of a cultural fix here. Lots of paddy fields in this part of Bali, very scenic, very peaceful, and this is a pretty typical scene that you see in this part of Bali. So now we're on our way from Lombok to the north side of Bali, Lavina Beach and the islands beyond. Now this was a little underwater shrine that we found when we were snorkelling just to the island north of Lombok. Just one of these very interesting things that you find in Bali. It's all part of the attraction of the island, I think. So we're heading north now from Bali up to Kalimantan, which is in Indonesian Borneo, I suppose. And we're going up the river here in a little klutuk through the jungle, and we're there to see what everybody else has come to see in this part of the country, which is the orangutans. Certainly very easy to hire these boats. There's lots of people around that are prepared to take you up there into the rainforest. And yes, here are the orangutans. So this is a type of sanctuary for the orangutans. I think some of them have been rescued. Unfortunately, their habitats are under threat on the island, in the palm oil industry and habitat destruction. So refuges like these are actually really, really important for the survival of the species. Certainly very, very special to get to see them, and we felt very, very fortunate. And that's one of the big males there. As you can see, he's certainly the big boss. coming back down the Blackwater River, and we're now heading north towards Bawean in the northern part of Indonesia. Enjoying a nice cup of coffee. So this is Boulder Beach on the island of Belitung, very famous. Getting pretty stormy now, heading up towards the equator. Lots of these fishing platforms around, so had to keep a lookout. Going across the equator, and yeah, pretty tropical around here. And we're heading into Nongsa Point, which is our last destination in Indonesia. So we're in the Singapore Straits now, heading for Malaysia. This is Singapore in the background, and as you expect, pretty busy in the Straits. So this is the causeway between Malaysia and Singapore, and here we are in Danga Bay on the southern tip of Malaysia. So this is Johor on the south end of Malaysia. So it was around Deepavali, and there was lots of shrines and festivals going on to celebrate that, and we got invited to a Hindu wedding, which was interesting. Then we spent a few days with our sailing friends from Kakadu in Singapore, so touring around the various attractions, and we had a very, very pleasant time, complete with Sunbrella, which is important for that part of the world, the orchid gardens, and we're up overlooking the island and the city of Singapore. So back in Johor here, and now we're up at Port Dickson on the Malay Peninsula. Malacca is the closest town to Port Dickson, and it's a fascinating part of Malaysia in terms of the heritage. Fairly predominant Dutch heritage, as you can see here, but also Portuguese. We visited a large temple while we were there. As you can see the steps in the background. This is inside. We took the train to spend a few days up in Kuala Lumpur. And these are where the two rivers join, which is where the city gets its name from, and we visited the Royal Selangor pewter factory before moving on to Pangkor, where we spent some time up in the Cameron Highlands, which is the tea growing area of Malaysia, and it's a lot cooler up there, so people often used to go there to escape the heat. We also visited a indigenous village whilst we were there, before heading up towards Penang. So this is Penang, or the anchorage, and this is the town there. Again, very, very fascinating culture, particularly with the Nyonya heritage and cooking. And this is a Nyonya house that we visited. And that's Penang. So we're on our way, almost at the end of our trip now, heading up towards Langkawi. So we're heading into Kuah here, and this is the anchorage there, and we're heading in towards our final destination, which was Rebak Marina. So that was the end of our cruising for that time. So there's Zen again, tied up in Rebak, where we spent Christmas. We took the chairlift up in Kuah to look at the sites there, and it was certainly a very pleasant place to spend Christmas and New Year. After Christmas, we decided to do a little bit more cruising, so we did a circumnavigation counterclockwise of Langkawi and stopped at a few other anchorages. One of them was the very well-known Hole in the Wall. However, during this time, at one of the anchorages, we touched on the bottom when we were anchoring at quite low speed, but our leak problem became quite a bit worse, and it became clear that we had to get it fixed. We'd had 4 months of great cruising in Southeast Asia. We were now looking forward to doing the major refit in Thailand, and then returning the boat back to our home in Fremantle, Western Australia.
In our next video, Zen again has a major refit in Phuket, and we sail her home to Fremantle.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please click to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.